As part of the weekly panel show, Ukraine and the Information War, we speak to individuals on the ground about how life has changed personally and professionally. I caught up with editor-in-chief of Marie Claire Ukraine to find out how their editorial strategy has changed to provide accurate and vital information to its readers. Hi, everybody. I'm joined by people who have key experiences on the ground in Ukraine, and we're delighted to be joined by Iryna, Taterenko, and Alex Burdnick, who will be translating. So, Iryna, can you begin by telling us how you and your staff are coping at the moment?
I wasn't ready for the war. Neither was my team. In our worst dreams, we couldn't imagine that such terrible things could be happening in the 21st century. The worst thing that you can't be ready for such things. So neither me nor my colleagues were prepared for that. So the first reaction, we were totally at a loss. At first 2 days were just lost because we couldn't even communicate. Then eventually we created some sort of regular scheme. We have daily meetings. The website is working, and so slowly but surely we are getting back to editorial work. Many of my team members do something extra. For instance, our director Iryna now, she deals with children, she does volunteer job. Our beauty editor, who is a very extraordinary person, she is now in territorial defense, and she is actually on the war zone in Kyiv. She personally captured 2 divergents. Everybody does something. Our fashion editor, who is in Copenhagen, she managed to save her parents, who were based in Kharkiv. And you know that the Russians are doing everything to flatten, basically, the city by their bombings. And she managed to save her parents out of that city. And she does lots of volunteer work, collecting funds and clothes much needed for our citizens. Another one of our editors is doing camouflage nets, protective nets. And our brand manager is involved in blocking Russian propaganda websites. So everybody really does something. There is involvement from each team member.
And so the next question then is, because everybody is so busy and they are doing all those different things, how hard has it been to actually keep up a regular publishing strategy? How hard has it been to continue doing your editorial work?
You see, there are priorities. This is much more of higher priority than as much as get involved into editorial work. This is very, very important for all of us. For instance, one of our editors gave birth in the first days of war. She became a mother. And many Ukrainian women are now giving birth in those bomb shelters. And the positive side of it that we don't succumb to the horrors of war. We try and keep living our normal lives whenever possible. So this is quite important. The priorities have changed. For instance, it might be cool to interview some fashion designer about their recent collections, Paris or Milan Fashion Week. But it is, for instance, my latest project is interviewing a cleaning lady in Kyiv who cleans after bombings, after daily bombings. And this is at the moment way more important than interviewing some glamorous star like Paris Hilton or whatever. That's what is a priority. It's not about where you do it. There is certain trend. We are not going to comment whether it's a good trend or bad. Some people in our community try and criticize those people who were forced to leave Kyiv. You left the city, you traveled either to the Western Ukraine or abroad, you escaped. You are covered. But I think it's very important to keep on doing things the best you can and be needed and be involved.
Absolutely. And one of the questions that I wanted to ask then is how you've actually changed what you write about. So we've seen some really good examples of that in an article on the Times, but how have you changed what you've been writing about from, say, writing about those very glossy issues like fashion all the way into actually writing practical advice for your readers during the war?
I'm sorry for being cynical, but I've been sick and tired of writing about glamorous parties, clothes. It's already been too much of that. It's something that I already know, and there's nothing new. As terrible as it sounds, this challenge was something new. And if I kept to write about this, I want to write about it in the best way possible and to be as useful as I can for my readership as it is possible. This is not something I would like to write for a long time because we are all hopeful that this will eventually end, the war will end. If I am to write about this and I want to be useful for my readership, I want to do it on the best level possible.
And so how are you communicating with your readers at the moment? How are you getting feedback on what they want to see?
Well, first of all, I get lots of feedback from our readership on our social networks, on social media, on my personal business email. I also get messages there. Also, lots of PR activities. People who are experienced PR creationists and creators, they have also been involved in creating, for instance, the so-called demotivating posters for the Russian soldiers. We have those around you, like Russian soldier, how will you look in the eyes of your children? Kill our children, go back home. And I have also published materials about that, as well as getting comments from our readership. I also get lots of comments from our colleagues. For instance, other colleagues, representatives of other magazines, having read our publication about girls who gave birth to children during the first days of war, they want to speak to these women themselves. So there is lots of feedback from our colleagues as well.
Я отримую відгуки від інших журналістів, від інших медіа, які бажають розвинути цю тему і поспілкуватися з дівчатами.
And when you are talking to other magazines, do you get the sense that there is, I suppose, that creative community is still active, is still working? There is still a sense that you can continue to produce great journalism for the foreseeable future?
В мене є досвід, тому що в 2014 році в нас відбулася Революція Гідності.
So basically, a tragic event show who is a friend and who is a fake friend, as terrible as it sounds, have shown who these people are, and luckily, I have convinced that the community is as strong as ever, and when we are sure we get back to normal, peaceful time, we still have that spirit of unity. And in fact, now when we talk, we discuss potential topics, we share ideas, irrespective of which publication we work for, we share ideas, we share thoughts. And this started back in 2013 when we had the Revolution of Dignity, Euromaidan, when there was this sort of division. We saw people who really are ready to fight for the spirit of freedom, of moving towards European values, and those who are ready to sell themselves for the 13 coins, you know, like Judas. Luckily, there are not that many Judases around our community, so we have tested our friendship by these hard times. It means that we will go through these hard times together, and then when peace comes to our land, we'll be moving on, having tested our community. You know, it's like in the military, in the battlefield, you have to watch your friends' back. And it means I know that my back is being watched by my colleagues and friends. That's very important.
That's great to hear. And it's, you know, that you mentioned there that some people will take money to say anything. And yeah, we've definitely seen that in the UK as well. So the drum it's primarily about media and marketing. I just wondered, what can the drum's audience do to help? Not necessarily just Iryna and team, but kind of the publishing industry in Ukraine more widely.
You will already doing a great deal in your help, because even this little interview, it's one small step, is one giant leap. What is happening right now? Why? Because you are helping in an informational war, as well as physical war. We have an informational war. For instance, 2 days ago, I was very surprised when I did an interview for a South African project, and they were asking absolutely strange and stupid questions like, Why are the Ukrainian nationalists? Why is there discrimination towards Russian-speaking audience? That's bullshit. Because if it were the case, we wouldn't have a Russian-speaking president who is actually a Jew. Our president is actually a Jew. And all this bullshit about Nazis here in Ukraine, that's all Russian propaganda. So by doing this project, by doing this interview, you are helping us in the informational war.
Перемоги і до миру. Тому я дуже дякую вам за те, що ви робите.
Definitely, and we've seen that thank you so much, but we've seen that disinformation has been such a key focus of the war so far. You know, deep faking videos, and the Ukrainian people have been posting on social so prolifically that it's actually really helped spread the truth as well. So as a final question, I wondered, you know, within Ukraine, is the sense that you can continue to tell your story on your terms very strong? You know, how are you actually feeling about the ability to communicate with the wider world?
За першою освітою я менеджерка, і нас навчали
The answer is obvious, yes. Why? Because by my first education, I'm a manager, and I was always taught that there are two things. It's the goal and the mission in each project, in each task. And my goal is obviously, as a journalist, is to inform our readership through my projects, through the magazines, through websites, through your help, through your kind help. But there is also a mission. And my mission is to tell the truth, not to lie. And that's what I have been doing on a daily basis. Until I'm alive, I shan't stop doing it.
Iryna and Alex, thank you so much for taking the time to have a chat with us. This has been fantastic. Hopefully we'll get to speak to you again in another couple of weeks, months, when the conversation has become slightly more peaceful and we can actually have a talk and look back about everything that you did. But for now, thank you so much for having a conversation with us.